So, welcome everybody. We're super excited you are here. And my name is Sarah Seidelman. And just for those of you who don't know me, I left my medical practice about 10, 11 years ago to become a writer and a shamanic healer. And I, since then, have written 6 books. And I was not a writer before that. So I'm here to tell you, I'm proof positive you can write a book. And I am here with Inger Kenobi. Inger, I'll start admitting people while you
Okay, sounds great. So yes, I am Ingrid Kenobi. I am also a life coach and author. I have written and published a book, and before that, I wasn't a writer either. So you can just like zoom into this writing adventure at any point in life. I'm totally like the proof of that.
Amen.
And maybe if you hear from my accent, I'm born and raised in Norway. And right now I am calling into you, speaking to all of you from my writing retreat in Nova Scotia, which is just so much fun.
So let me tell you, and Inger's like a little bit, I don't know, your Wi-Fi is a little bit funky, but we'll just see. I think it was so good before.
Okay.
We're just gonna like presume it's gonna get good again. So how this call is
Good.
going to go, we're going to do a little grounding meditation just to help ourselves like step all the way into this experience. And then Inger and I are going to present our top 10 reasons why we think that you need to write your book in 2022. And then we're going to step into a bit of an experiential part of the call where Inger and I sort of bring this combination of sort of a very kind of spiritual approach, a presence approach, but then also a very grounded approach. So we're going to take you on an experience which is going to help you connect with your book. And then once you are connected with your book, we're going to talk about some tools to help you really bring that book, down to earth, so to speak. And then we're going to have some time for Q&A. And then at the very end, we're going to talk a little bit about an offering that we're creating for writers who want to get their book written in 2022 at the end. So we hope you'll stay for the whole thing. So we're going to start with this grounding meditation. So if you want to just take a moment and uncross your legs, uncross your feet, close your eyes if it's comfortable. And I want to invite you just to feel your feet on the ground and your seat in the chair, contacting the chair. And then I want to invite you to become aware of the top of your head and become aware of the skin on your forehead and the back of your skull and the front of your neck and the back of your neck. And now to become aware of the skin on your chest and your shoulder blades and your upper belly and your lower back and your pelvis and the skin on the back of your legs and your kneecaps and your calves and your ankles. And now just feeling your feet, maybe picking them up off the ground and feeling them connecting back to the earth. Just going to invite you to take 2 breaths into your lower belly, in through your nose, into your lower belly, and then let it go. And then another breath into your belly and let it go. And then a deep breath into your heart and let it go. And another deep breath into your heart and let it go. And then finally 2 deep breaths into the top of your head. And another deep breath into the top of your head. And then just say your name to yourself silently. Feel your feet back on the ground. And then when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And welcome, welcome. So we are going to begin with our top 10 reasons why you should write your book in 2022. And I'm going to let Inger start us off, kick us off.
Yeah, and I just love this topic, like why you should write your book instead of sharing like your top writing tools. Because if you don't think that you can write your book or that you should write your book, like all the tools in the world will not help you. So the first reason, or number 10, we start from the bottom, working our way up. Sarah, can I just check with you? Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. You sound great. You're perfect.
Okay, just checking. So the number 1 or number 10 is because you can. I mean, you physically can start writing your book. You can write your book. We don't live in a culture where women are not allowed to write or be published. We don't live in a community where like only certain people have this thing, but we have so many reasons why we think we can and shouldn't be writing. I heard a woman say, but my sister wrote a book, so that I can't then, like there's some kind of weird competition, you know, and then, but you can just start, you can get going. And when you own that reason, like, oh, I can just actually start, it's like so simplistic, it's so practical, you can just get going. So that is my number at the bottom list, why you should write your book, because you actually can. There are no one is stopping you, no one is physically preventing you from doing it. There is like, you're not in danger sitting there with your pen and paper, there's not a lion or a tiger coming to bite you. It's like all the reasons for not writing the book is just in our heads, but physically we can start right now, right after this call, you can start writing this book. So that is one of my top 10 reasons, because you can.
I love it. Thank you, Inger. Okay, so I'm number 9. So number 9, my reason is because you should write your book in 2022 because somebody told you that you can't. Now, this may seem very contrarian, but we encourage you to write as a pure act of rebellion. A lot of us who are drawn to creating and writing consider ourselves sort of black sheep and often rejected from society in many ways. So this can be a powerful way. Now, I actually have a story from my life. Maybe some of you have heard it already, but I will share it. That when I went on a sabbatical from my medical practice, I got this wild kind of passionate drive to write a book. I don't know where it came from. It just arrived, and I like spewed out like 75,000 words, and I thought it was very much a stream of consciousness, but I thought this could be a book, but I know it's not a book yet, and I could use some help with it. So I hired this fancy editor to look at it, and I'll never forget the afternoon that the phone began to ring, and I knew it was her calling. And I looked into my backyard and I saw these blue jays gathering, and they were like squawking and making these kind of rather not pleasant noises. And I thought, oh my God, this is not going to go well. Like, I knew it wasn't going to go well. And I picked up the phone, and she said a lot of things, but the one thing I heard her say was, you can't write this book. You're not ready to write this book. You won't be ready for 3 years. And I was just like, then she was like, rah, rah, rah. She kept talking, but I was like, oh my God, I got to get off the phone. I just had to get off. And as soon as I got off, I went into my bedroom, flung myself on the bed, and sobbed for hours. It was like, I can't even describe the pain. And it was just odd because it was just this idea that I had out of nowhere, and I'm not sure why the grief was so strong. But that quagmire of grief dragged me down for 3 months, guys. And if you want to ask some old friends, they'll tell you I was not much fun to be with during that period. But I moved through the process of grieving that Elizabeth Kubler-Ross outlines, and I eventually hit anger. Like, I got mad, I got pissed. I was like, who is this lady to tell me I can't write a book? This is nuts. And I finally got the courage to call another editor, and I had a new idea for a different book, and I told her about that, and she said, yes, you can write that book, and of course I'll help you do it. And I was like, really? And it was incredible, and all this energy came back. And I'm not saying writing my first book was easy, but I had so much passion and fire for it once I decided that that's what I was going to do. So maybe you had, an English teacher. Many of us have been wounded, like in our schooling, or we got a bad grade on a paper, and we made that mean, like, I remember getting a B+ in college at a very competitive college and realizing, oh my God, I'm not meant to be a writer. That was it. I literally decided on one B plus paper, I'm not meant to be a writer. Maybe somebody actually told you you can't write a book. Or maybe you have inside of you, like many of us do, a strong inner critic that is telling you, who are you to think, who do you think you are? You can't write this. But whatever the case may be, Inger and I want to encourage you that there is no more delicious feeling than proving a naysayer wrong. So, um, yeah, we want to just help you tap into that rebellion, and also just to say that encouraging you also to stay to keep your writing safe, to make sure when you write and when you work on this project that you do it in a safe way, like so that you're surrounded by people who are your champions and who do believe you can write this book. So that is number 9. Do it because somebody told you you can't.
Yes. And when you do that, number 8, my other reason is because you get to play in the realm of magic, creativity, inspiration, and the unknown. And this is important for so many reasons, but the main reason is that the opposite of play isn't work. The opposite of play and creativity is actually depression. And it's so hard to find moments of play and wonder and excitement and just this like joyful outpour of creativity where we feel like we always have to be so busy, we have to be so productive, we have to prove ourselves, we have to amount to something, get kind of very stern and strict and, just very practical about things. But when you write a book, oh my God, you get to, become a storyteller. You get to like fish out the gems from within. You get to also follow in the footsteps of some really cool people. Like suddenly I have the same title as Margaret Atwood. We're both authors. It's like suddenly you're aligning yourself with these amazing beings. And that alone is very like heightening and inspiring and fun. And so instead of aligning yourself with the naysayer or the people who like gave you B minus or you can't write this book, whoever said that, you're aligning yourself to sound a little like, whoa, like the creative forces of the universe and people who've gone before you. And it's such a magical, amazing feeling. And yes, it's work. You still have to sit there. It takes a lot of time just physically typing and then going over it and the shitty first draft and all the rest of it. But in between that, infused with that, layered within all of that, are these like pockets of inspiration, of joy. And you just get to see like all the things they start to bubble up when you give yourself that permission. So that is my reason number 8.
I love it. And by the way, you guys, Inger and I shared the first lines of our top 10, but we did not share the actual content. So it's really fun. I'm just hearing these for the first time, really. So it's super fun. There's a lot of crossover, which is exciting. So reason number 7 is because writing your book in 2022 will make you into a better human being, 100% guaranteed. So not only will your life be more lively and amazing, you will be humbled. You will experience great highs and lows. And the main thing, I guess, or one of the main things that happened to me is that I developed a much deeper compassion for other people, in particular other creatives, because when I began to realize what it took for some of my favorite authors to write their books, guys, I now just want to get down on my knees and just like thank them, because what I realize is, it is no small feat to write a book. And as Inger spoke of, like you get to begin to count yourself as you write your book, in this crazy like patchwork family of amazing creative humans that you admire. You're suddenly in that circle, and there is something really magical about that. The second thing is that that's going to help you really grow and change as a person, is that you're going to have to ask for help. I don't know about you guys, but I was 10 years, 11 years ago, I was one of these sort of like, I'm a lone wolf, I've got this, no problem, no, you don't need to help me, I'm good, I can do this. And what I've had to learn time after time is like when you want to create something, something like a book, anything wonderful that you're going to create, you're going to have to ask for help. Whether it's getting help with copy editing, whether it's asking somebody to read something for you to get an impression, whether it's having, to have somebody help you upload it to KDP so you can print it, have it published at Amazon. You are going to need to rely on other people and trust them, and I think that is ultimately, I think that's why we're here, is to be in relationship with others. So that's really powerful. The other thing that's going to make you grow and make you into a better person is you're going to have to stick your neck out. And even if you're not writing like the most excruciatingly personal memoir and confessing the fact that you had breast implants like I did in my memoir, Swimming with Elephants. And trust me, that was a tough one for me to swallow because I had never told anybody that. Even if you're not doing that, you're going, and even if you're writing some, very practical nonfiction type of book, you're still going to have to really you're going to have to share it with others. And that's going to cause you to feel vulnerable. And that's going to cause your heart to grow like the Grinches did at the end of the movie, like 6.5 times, like 100% guaranteed. And so this is like, yeah, you're going to be a better person at the end of this journey, should you choose to say yes to it.
I absolutely love that. Yes. Number 6, this is a very practical reason, because writing a book is one of those things you can get going with right away. And I mean, like right away, like you get up in the morning, you have a pen and paper, you can start typing. You don't need any extra equipment. You don't need to like lose 20 pounds, gain 20 pounds. Like if I wanted to train for a marathon, there's a definitely like, you can't just run a marathon. You need to like, practice and get going and build up your stamina. A book, you could just start right away. You could just start right away. And like, it has the simplest tools in the history of creative stuff. If you're a photographer, expensive equipment. If you want to be a filmmaker, expensive equipment. If you want to learn pottery, now you need a pottery wheel. As a writer though, you can go down the street, pick up trash and start writing on it. I was like, you can get going right away. And I say this, I mean, it sounds silly that I should mention this as a reason, but I have heard people again say, oh, I'll start writing once I get my own office. I'll start writing once I have a better Mac. I'll start writing when I've decided what kind of writing program I should have. Oh, I will start writing once I have an agent. I will start writing once I get funding. I will start writing once I have, the list goes on and on and on. And all these barriers, they're not real barriers. It is one of these things you can start, you could just start right away. And that was shocking to me because I thought someone would like knock on the door, open it, and there on a silver platter, this magical fairy would like, now Inger, now it's your turn to write a book, dearest. It's like this crazy thing that we're just waiting for that magical moment. The magical moment starts when I start, when you start. And you can start right away. You can tap into the magic right away. You can tap into being a better person right away. You can tap into being a storyteller right away. You can tap into the patchwork of other authors right away. There are 0 prerequisites. It's pretty awesome. And it's kind of like, this is like, I'm so glad I'm interested in this and not climbing Everest.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, Inger. You just slowed down a little bit, so if I was strange, that's why. So number 5 is because it will scare the hell out of you. This is why you need to write this book. So we all know the quote from Eleanor Roosevelt, do the thing you think you cannot do. And if you're a self-help book addict like I am, you'll realize that every self-help book that you've ever read really kind of boils down to like doing the thing that frightens you but yet keeps calling to you. And why do we avoid it? Most of us hide under the covers. We idly gossip about those who are actually doing these terrifying things. We hide, we eat chocolate chip cookies, we drink excess wine, we shop online, we check out Anthropologie's latest collection. I mean, anything to avoid this thing that scares the pants off of us, right? But what I want to argue is that, you're right smack dab in the middle of the hero's journey. You're not in the middle yet. You're at the beginning. And, of course, what the hero does at first is they refuse the call. They're like, oh, I couldn't write a book. I don't have the proper program. I don't understand. What is that? There's some crazy program where you write with the novels with, I forget what it is. I just, But the great part about the hero's journey is there is that wonderful plot twist, and maybe this is the plot twist you've been waiting for, when the hero says, yes, I will do that hard thing. I will do the crazy thing of writing the book. I decided I will say yes to this. And those of you who know about the hero's journey as outlined by I was going to say Joseph Conrad, but that's like an author.
Campbell.
Thank you, Joseph Campbell. I'm having a moment. Um, what happens is the helpers arrive the minute you say yes. Magical synchronicities begin to occur. Doors will open for you that would not open for any other person. And Inger and I have both witnessed it over and over again, and I'm sure you have on other heroes' journeys that you have been on in your lifetime. And so the hero, of course, next after they've said yes, has to typically face some terrible beast or foe, which, is usually representative of our fears, and the dragon, right? So the dragons for me, I'm just going to mention a few of them. I mean, we all have our own. So if you feel so inclined, well, we'll talk about that maybe a little later. But number one, one of my dragons was fear of critics. Oh my gosh, if I write this book, like, what if people just say it's terrible and talk behind my back and just laugh and are like, oh my God, she's a terrible mother. Did you read that story, the one she told about what she did to her? All the judgment. I mean, I just feared that. So if that's one of yours, I have a small exercise for you to do after class, not now, but go read the 1-star reviews of your absolute favorite book on Amazon right now. Not now, later. Do it for your 3 favorite books, maybe one from childhood, maybe one from adulthood. And what you'll see is even the most brilliant writers, your absolute favorites, have been trashed by some troll somewhere. And yet it did not stop them, I'm guessing, and keep them from continuing to write books. So that's one of the fears. The other one, another fear that's really common is the fear that the dragon that if I write this book, it's already been written. Somebody's already written the book that I wanted to write. And it's better, it's good. They beat me, they took my idea. That's another classic one. And I just want to say hogwash on that, because each one of you is a magical you that the universe has never ever seen before. You have a magical concoction of DNA, genetics, personal experience, traumas, everything. There's no way anybody could write the book that you're going to write. So that's what I had to say about that. And then the last one I wanted to mention was fear that you're an imposter, this fear that I'm not a writer. I remember thinking to myself, well, Elizabeth Gilbert, one person who I admire as a writer, she's a writer since she was 11 years old. She's been keeping a journal, and it's her number one passion for almost 50 years now. I think she's 50, I don't know. And I didn't even get really interested in writing until 42. So I thought that meant I really wasn't a writer. I was some sort of, wannabe. So this is going to ask, you're going to be invited to, by doing the thing that scares you, by writing this book, you're going to slay these dragons and emerge more confident. You'll be the hero of the story. So that's my number 5.
Oh my God. And who doesn't want to be the hero in their own story?
I do.
Yeah, I do too. So number 4, yes, there's a lot of overlapping themes here because the whole journey is overlapping. My number 4 is because as your inner world expands, when you start bubbling up these stories and you have your ideas and inspiration, when your inner world expands, so does your outer world. And there's many reasons for that. I want to give some examples because you start to observe things in a different way. You start to have new thoughts. You're not just stuck in your routine. You're not just an autopilot. Suddenly you're engaging a whole different part of your brain. And it's almost like if you buy a red car, suddenly you see red cars everywhere. And it's the same when you start writing your book. It's like you observe things differently. You start to have different conversations. You start to pick up different books. You engage in different habits. And it's this ripple effect. You might start small. Who am I? The imposter, yada, yada. But then when you start to do it, and then you take one step further and one step further and one step further, and suddenly you find yourself teaching a writing workshop like I do now with Sarah, or you participate in Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic workshop, or you see yourself on the front cover of the women's pages of a big UK magazine. That happened to me, got interviewed on BBC. And it's there's no way I could have predicted where, just sitting there oh God, should I not start a book? Should I not be writing? Who am I to write about this? I'm probably not an expert. That's another one. Who am I to? And when I start to do it, it's And also people just take you serious. Oh, you wrote a book. That's so impressive. That's amazing. Do you want to be on this TV? Do you want to be on the radio? Can we write an article about you? Da, da, da. Do you want to teach a work? It's like things start to happen, and it doesn't have to be those things, but something different happens. Something always leads to something else. And I think like when we just go around in our head, should I not, spinning, thinking about it, wondering about it, picking it up, putting it down again, not really serious about it, not really owning it, being afraid, all the inner critics. And when you just start to do it, all those fears, all those things just kind of start to melt away to make room for all these new observations, experiences, and possibilities. And yeah, it's true. The moment you do say yes to something, like these magical helpers, they do show up. And it's not just about writing. Anything you do that you commit to, like there's something that happens when you walk over that threshold. It's almost like walking the doorway into Narnia. Who do you meet there? You don't know that standing on the other side of the wardrobe. So that is my other reason, number 4, because your inner world expands and your outer world will follow suit.
I love that. I love the doorway. I love that. It's so
Yes.
beautiful. Okay, number 3, we're getting close, because writing your book, you have to write your book in 2022 because it is the most generous thing you could do. I'm going to repeat that one, because it is the most generous thing you could do. Most of the people that I meet, including myself, as I was speaking about before I wrote my first book, most of us worry that if we were to take the time, the resources, financial and otherwise, to invest in doing something like writing a book, that it would be selfish. And even we worry that it might be harmful somehow to our kids, to our partner, to our job, to, I don't know, to our grandma. I mean, we have this sense or this worry and anxiety that if we were to devote so much time to something that means something to us, like this book project, some harm would come to someone we love. And what I want to tell you is that we believe that it's the opposite of that. We believe that as you begin to create, you will demonstrate to everyone around you that it's okay to take time for yourself. It's okay to devote yourself to a beautiful creative project. It's okay to invest financial resources in hiring a copy editor, or hiring somebody to help you, organize the book, whatever it is, or take a class in writing, whatever it is you're needing. For that. And this creative act basically that you're making will silently give other people permission to make their creative act. Like maybe they're dying to put on an opera on the ice, or maybe they've got like a series of paintings, large scale paintings of marmoset monkeys they've been waiting to paint. Watching you do what you do is they're going to go, wow, like I could do this too. And I want to say, particularly for those of you who have influence over young people, so maybe you're an auntie or an uncle or a father or mother or grandpa or grandma, and you're listening to this, I feel like it's a moral imperative that you make your creative act, because if we show, we know that children and young adults do not do what we say, they do what we do. And if we are martyrs, we will raise a bunch of martyrs, and Lord knows we don't need any more of those. What we need is creatives. And so I think that, maybe that if that can motivate you thinking about how it's going to free your children, your grandchildren, your nieces, your nephews, whoever, or your younger colleagues, to be free to make their creative act. And I have a quote, which I love, from Brenda Euland, who speaks to this. And she says, "Write your book, because there is nothing that makes people so generous, joyful, lively, bold, and compassionate, so indifferent to fighting and the accumulation of objects, anthropology, and money." Because the best way to know truth or beauty is to express it. So that was Brenda Euland. So number 3, do it because it's the most generous thing you can do.
Yes. And reason number 2 for why you should must write your book in 2022, is that you don't need more Instagram followers or Twitter followers or be an influencer or have an authorship or a readership. There, I mentioned this from personal experience. I was told by an agent that in order for my book to be taken seriously, I needed at least 10,000 Twitter followers. So what did I do? I put my manuscript aside, followed, liked, commented, got my followers, got up to 12,000, did not help me get, the only thing it did was to take time away from the actual writing. And I just like to illustrate how absurd this advice is. And especially people take it seriously because they come from professionals, from agents, from other authors, from maybe people who did go that way. And then it sounds so sane. And oh yes, I must know how to market my book before I write it. It's like, it is absolutely ridiculous. So just think if like Charles Dickens ran around thinking you need to be an influencer before he created the Christmas Carol, or if, it's so funny, Margaret Atwood, her first book signing was in the men's department of this like little shopping mall and right next to the men's underwear. And her book was called The Edible Woman. And they just walked past her thinking like, well, who's this insane person? She wasn't famous. She hadn't done The Handmaid's Tale. She hadn't done the Hulu. There was no fame, in that. So there is this weird thing going on now. Just because you can be famous on Instagram, you should be famous online before you get to write your book. And I have heard people who even have book agents who have like a book contract, like ready to go, who think, oh, but I don't have enough followers yet. People have actually said those words. And I think it's just like way too sad. So this whole fame thing that we must be famous before is a little bit backwards. And also people who are now famous authors, they got rejected first. So, can I just read a few funny rejections and we can almost have, So here's one. If I may be frank, I find your efforts to be both tedious and offensive. That's a rejection letter Ernest Hemingway got. This is, first we must ask, does it have to be a whale? For instance, could not the captain be struggling with a depravity towards young, perhaps voluptuous maidens? Moby Dick, right? And this one, for your own sake, do not publish this book, D.H. Lawrence. And last one here, you have a decent book if you just got rid of that Gatsby character, Fitzgerald, right? So even people who wrote bestsellers, who had amazing, they got rejected first because someone who sat there in the ivory tower of the publishing company didn't think their book was good, and not all the Twitter followers or the newsletter followers or whatever followers in the history of the world could have made that book published. Like, let the work speak for yourself. And if you don't get a publisher, you can self-publish. And if it feels like a too big of a project, make it smaller. And take Sarah's advice, ask for help. Who's done this before? What other route can I go? But this whole idea that you need to become a completely different person first before you write your book, that's just going to take your life force, your creativity, your magic away. And I'm just like not interested. And just to contrast it, one of my friends, she published a book, got translated into 12 languages right away. She has about 126 Instagram followers. So just wanted to put that out there in case any of you has been fed that baloney.
I love that one. Charles Dickens, like trying to think of a good post for Instagram every day makes me just want to it's just good. Okay, so our last reason, number one reason why you need to write your book in 2021, because a messy house or garage or basement or closet will not haunt you on your deathbed like an unwritten book might. And I hear you crying. You're like, but I'm sorting the recycling, or I'm working on a stain removal program in my basement. There's some stains I need to get out, or like the cat needs to go to the dentist. It's like, we all have, just 24 hours in each day. And it's really this prioritizing and this deciding that this is something that is precious and important to us that we must do. And yes, you may run out of paper towels. And yes, the oil may not be changed in the car on the proper date. And you may get a red check at your, by your name at the public library for not returning books on time. There may be repercussions, but the option is much more bleak. Is like to get to the end of your days and realize you died with the so-called music in you, or like without really living. The way that Inger was describing, we can really live and delve into this imagination and feel these big feelings and expand. It's an adventure. And we believe that Mary Oliver, the poet Mary Oliver, says it really well. And so I'm just going to read a little bit about what she says about her writing process. It is 6 a.m. and I am working. I am absent-minded, reckless, heedless of social obligations. It is as it must be. The tire goes flat. The tooth falls out. There will be 100 meals without mustard, because Mary Oliver ain't running to the store at the last minute to get anybody any gall dang mustard, people. The poem gets written. Yes. I have wrestled with the angel, and I am stained with light, and I have no shame. Neither do I have guilt. My responsibility is not to the ordinary or the timely. It does not include mustard or teeth, and it does not extend to the lost button or the beans in the pot. My loyalty is to the inner vision whenever and howsoever it may arrive. So Inger and I just want to really encourage you that it is this inner vision, this extraordinary inner vision is where, that is hopefully where you will align your loyalty. And if dare I take it further spiritually, I feel like it's my duty, to allow this goodness to flow through me. Like we are here to let, whatever it is that's coming to come out. So, so yes. So that concludes our top 10. And we want to know, like, did something come up for you? And would you put it into chat? Is there another reason why you are sitting here listening and thinking, here's why I need to write my book? Because we would love to, because we know that, like, I have a hunch if you share your reason, it may inspire somebody else. So we wanted to give a few moments to see, or if you want to share a comment. Kimberly says, I don't even have Instagram. Ha! You're one step ahead, Kimberly. You're already getting there.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah, if anybody wants to share in chat, we're totally open to that, or we can move on to the next, the next part of this. Yeah, so
yeah.
Go ahead, Inger. You want to say something? Yeah.
No, I was just thinking that, there's just so many reasons, right? And I think that in the end, you just this is like, I read a book that I thought I could have written better. So it's almost like revenge writing. So it's like, well, if she can, I can, got competitive about it. So that's another reason, because people publish books that are written that much worse than we do. So it's another reason.
I love what Libby Lou says, because I'm sick of myself and I've cleaned all the closets. Okay, this is what I feel like when people are really ready to get going, is when you start getting disgusted with yourself, like you're really annoyed and you're getting irritable. That's a good sign. Another good sign that you're really ready to go with this thing is like you start getting jealous of other people who are actually writing or publishing books, and you're like, damn, that was my idea, or damn, if I had started last year. Barrett's writing, because great memoirs have saved my life and inspired me to go big or go home. And if I can give that gift to one person, it's worth it. Plus, writing is fun and an amazing free form of therapy. Yes. Yes, Barrett.
Yes.
That was a big motivator for me. Like, I felt so grateful that I had learned what I had learned and that I'd gotten out of my misery. And I wanted to write my memoir to pay it forward. Do you want to keep reading, Inger? I don't want to read them all.
Yeah, and this one says it's been percolating for quite some time. Oh, I lost it.
I can feel it. I've been trying to get the momentum. I love it.
Yeah, the momentum to begin. And hey, you just heard a reason. You can begin right away. Don't need momentum even. You can just start once upon a time.
Because with all the great characters and stories I've experienced in my life, I have no need to make shit up. Yes. You've been living this amazing adventure, and it's like, the truth is almost so much better than fiction, guys. And I so agree with that, Rebecca. So yes. And Lori says, Oh, go ahead, Inger, you go for it.
No, it just reminded me of like David Sedaris, one of my favorite writers, like he always writes, stories based on what happens in his life and people he meets. And he's like, talk about like expanding your life and nothing goes to waste and you couldn't even make it up. He said like when people are rude to him or something horrible happens or there's a disaster, he's like, it's basically like people are handing me money because now I get to write about it. So
I love that. Lori says, because I've tried to ignore it, it won't go away. Yep. It's like
that
that's
reason.
it's really your calling. And Sika says, this book keeps asking me to write it. I've been thinking about it for a couple years. Today, a brand new insight. I'm taking notes, floating ideas, chapters write themselves. Wow, yeah.
Powerful.
And a little bit more like, I think when you were talking about the great characters, that made me think of something like as I started becoming a writer, which all you need to do that is just write, begin writing your book, and then suddenly you're a writer. Strange things start happening in your life, and you start seeing your life as this crazy book, like what's going to happen next? And it's more like this adventure, and life becomes more adventurous when you start thinking like a writer, which is a really sweet thing.
Absolutely. I sometimes ask myself if this was a movie script or a book, what would I want the main character to do? Procrastinate and not do the thing they want to do, or would I want the story to continue in this way? And then I kind of have to like live the story I would want to read.
Ooh, I love that. That is
So
delicious. Okay, well, thank you guys for sharing those. Those are awesome. We are now getting ready to get into the experiential portion of this adventure we are on. So, if you would like to, we're going to do a guided journey. And so, I'm going to invite you, if you want to lay down, take a moment to get comfortable on the ground, and if not, you can totally do this in the seated position as well. But if you do better relaxing, like laying down on your couch, feel free to get comfortable. Um, and oh, and I'm just going to read one more of these. Laura says, because the little girl inside has so much to share and it brings out the little person in each of us. Beautiful. Yes.
so beautiful, all of it.
And Inger, I just saw you went away, but that's okay. Your image.
Yes, I just took the image off thinking maybe that makes the internet connection a little faster. So
Good idea. Okay, so just inviting you to I'm going to be taking you on a little journey, and I'm going to be using this. It's called a chakapa instead of a drum, which maybe some of you have heard me use drums before. But I'm going to use this chakapa, and it's just some leaves. It's something that I learned about through one of my teachers in the Amazon, and this is another way to sort of help us drop into a deeper meditation and experience. So I'll be making some little rustling noises with that as I talk. But just inviting you to connect with your breath and to uncross your limbs. If your arms or legs are crossed, to uncross them. And again, feel your feet on the ground or the weight of your body on the ground. And this is going to be very much an in-body experience, so not an out-of-body experience, very much in-body. So I want to invite you to open up all your senses. And, what do you smell? What do you taste? What do you hear? And what do you just know? So we're going to we'll begin. So it's a beautiful evening, and this whole group that is on this call and listening to this call, are going to gather together in this beautiful clearing in the woods. And it's a beautiful forest, and we're all looking up because the stars are absolutely incredible. And you can feel your feet. We're all barefoot, of course. And your feet are touching the cool, wet grass. There's a little bit of night dew on it. And just opening your senses. What's the temperature of the air on your skin? What do you smell? What do you hear in this beautiful place? And out in the distance, we can see a yurt. And it is illuminated from within. And as a group, we all begin to move towards it. And as we get closer, we see that the door is ajar. And one by one, we enter this beautiful space. And in the center of the yurt, there's a fire burning. And the ground is covered in soft hand-woven carpets, and there are cushions and blankets all around the perimeter of the yurt. You feel the heat radiating from the fire, and you find a place for yourself and make yourself cozy. In a moment, the door will open, and you will each be visited by the spirit of the book that you have already written. The spirit of your book is coming from a sacred library where all the books ever written are shelved. Take a moment to center yourself and to open your heart so that you can listen fully to what this book of yours has to share with you. The door swings open wide, and flying in on wings, the spirit of your books arrives. Please put your palms up so that your book may land there. As it lights on your hands, welcome your book home. Maybe give it a hug and notice what you see on the cover. Is there a title, a word, an image? Feel free to turn the book over and look at the back as well. I will now drum for you for a few minutes and give you the chance to ask your book anything you like, from what are you about to how did I overcome the obstacles to finally get you written. Your book can speak to you, so talk with it, and in a few minutes I will let you know when it's time to return. Is there any last things your book want you to know about it? Now it's time to say your goodbyes. Let your book know that you're open to receiving communication from it at any time. And now release your book and watch it fly along with all the other books back out of the yurt. It's now time for us to return. So please make your way out of this beautiful space back into the dark night. And take one more glance at those beautiful stars before you return completely to the room that you are sitting in. So we're just going to invite you now to take a few moments in silence to write out or sketch out what you saw or what you learned about your book. And we'll give you about 3 or 4 minutes here. And if you'd like, you are welcome. We'd love to have you share some of them in chat. Or if there's something you're willing to share in chat, we'd love to see that too. And I see that some of you are still writing, so we'll take another minute. And again, if any of you are willing to share something about what you received in the chat, that would be lovely.
Oh, look at this. This is nice. Libby wrote, my book is full of energy and joy. It is wild and I'm not too restrained it at all. If I hold it back, it'll be sad and depressing. Let it run wild as it wants to be, and it will be joyous. Isn't that beautiful?
So lovely. Thank you, Libby, for sharing that.
Mine didn't have a message, but it came with a fully formed cover. And I've been wondering about the cover for the book I'm currently writing. So I was excited. It's like, oh, that's what you want to look like.
Super great. I was busy pounding my chacapa, so I didn't want Journey. Ooh, Stephanie says her cover also arrived. Love it. Love it, love it.
Yes.
Hmm.
I mean, I just in general, talking to your book is a really good idea. When I was writing my previous book, I felt it slipping away from me. I felt I like lost all grasp on reality and what it took to finish it. And I just could feel it just like fog disappearing. So I actually went into a field, on a beautiful day, no distractions. And I sat down and I'm like, okay, listen, if you come back to me, I will sit down and I will finish you. And this is my promise, but you have to come back. I can't do all the work. And I could literally feel the book returning, but then I had to kind of physically drag it. And then it stayed with me and it was done over the next 2 weeks. So you don't just get to talk to your book in the beginning, you can talk to it throughout the entire journey.
Love that. Ooh, dang it. These are mine too. Mine too. The back cover came as well. Beautiful. And the inner began to fill in. I love this exercise. I can feel the exercise. Oh, or I can feel the energy. I'm trying to get my. Ooh, Jane says the cover is a vision of my hero grandfather Benjamin bent over his desk with a hand-carved wood pen in his arthritic hands, and faces out towards the woods. He's writing a final love letter to his granddaughter Penelope before he dies. Wow, so much information.
And Stephanie wrote, the most powerful thing for me was to see myself holding it and cherishing it. Yes, there's something really powerful about seeing yourself holding the finished project, that the joy of holding your own book that you wrote, it's amazing.
And Kimberly says, oh gosh, these are going so fast. Well, Kristen says, heart of gold shimmering on white satin cover, book emerges from my heart as a portal to the heart of the world. Ooh, so lovely. And Kimberly says, then my throat felt tight and my book said, tell the stories. And I think you said something above there. Kimberly said, my book was bright blue with a young girl on the cover. Her hands were open with little sparks of light floating out of them into the branches of a magical tree. I love it.
I mean, isn't it funner to align with that part of the writing process instead of the inner critic and working on getting your followers? It's like, let's put the weight behind where it's worth something.
And Rebecca says a title possibly came, a chapter or maybe the whole thing, just a splash, about growing up in New Orleans, heavy drinking culture.
Love it.
I saw this is coming. Let's see. Christy Marie says I saw a picture of myself that I have never really liked of me as a child, and the title or theme was "The World Is My Mother," and then it focused on my feet. Interesting. Now I'm scrolling back down. Let's see here.
Oh yeah, April wrote.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead, Sarah.
Okay.
I just want to.
My book was first handed to me, it was very heavy, and as I asked it each question, it became lighter and lighter. I love that.
Yeah, wow is right.
Devon says, I saw the color blue for a cover, which is more for the book I have in process. I also got some ideas for another unrelated book. I love it. You're not just writing the first one, they're lining you up for the next one too. The only reason I wrote a second book, you guys, is because when I was talking to the editor, she goes, so what book are you going to write now? And I was like, you think I could write a second book? She's like, oh yeah. I'm like, really? I was so excited by that idea. That's why I wrote a second book. Oh, we can stop ourselves in so many funny ways. Okay, well, Inger, I think it's shall we take it to the next section? You ready to take
Yes.
it away?
Absolutely. And first of all, thank you everyone for sharing. It's so beautiful. And I think it helps everyone else to see what's going on. Like with this, it's like we're not alone in this. And this is what we mean about gathering with like-minded people and spending time in this amazing creative energy. So, and now it's time to get a little specific. So my tool part of this workshop is that now that you've called your book in and maybe you had some questions and maybe you have a clearer vision, now it's time to get a little bit practical and get clear in your calendar. When can I write this? And when I say put it in the calendar, I don't mean you have to get up crazy early or burn the midnight oil or stop having a social life. What has always worked for me is to take the next logical step. And it doesn't necessarily mean looking in the calendar at times, but like, could I write in my lunch break? Could I write Saturday mornings? Could I write, oh, I'm going on a car trip, I'm not the driver. Could I journal a little bit as the passenger? Just finding little pockets of time in your everyday life where it would be fitting and natural and logical to start writing your book. Because again, this whole thing of like, oh, I don't have enough time is often the most common one. But once you start to like investigate, almost like a detective in your calendar, oh, I have 5 minutes here, I have 10 minutes there. Oh, I commute, I'm on the bus, I'm on the train, instead of, maybe I don't need to watch Gilmore Girls on rerun again. Maybe I can write the book instead. What can I swap out? And then just start with what is easy, what is fun, what is logical, and then build from there. Like when I used to live in London and my dream was to live in the countryside and write books, which I now do, but it didn't start out that way. It took many, many years to work up to that. And then I did the next best thing. I would take the train to Hampstead on Sundays and find a little coffee shop and sit in the coffee shop and write on Sunday afternoons when I didn't have any other things going on. Then I would write on the bus home. I would sometimes write in my lunch breaks because that was more fun than just chit-chatting over yesterday's TV show with colleagues. So again, it's just like, and then you start to build and expand, and then suddenly you have the world's best reason for not showing up for stuff you don't want to do. Oh, thank you for asking, but I'm actually working on my book. And you get to say that, and you get to do it, and you get to mean it, and it's a really fun, not excuse, but reasons for getting out of things you don't want to do. So I don't mean like I'm going to write for 2 hours every day, or I must have this big chunk of time. The chunk of time is a illusion. It's a ghost. It's this like carrot in the future that we may or may not get to. So do not underestimate the pockets of 5 to 10 to 15 to 20 minutes. But unless you write it in, like on Mondays, I will go here, and Tuesday, well, like maybe you don't have to write it in the diary, but at least have it in your head as a clear thing. This is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing. And the second part of the putting it into the calendar or finding slots in your life, so the book fits into your life, you don't need to become a different person with 48 hours in a day type of thing in order to get writing. The second thing is to get specific, because if you have in the calendar or you have in your head, write the book, that's too big. It's too vague. Your brain, your creativity does not know what to do with that. So instead, I highly recommend saying, I will journal about the title. I will work on my chapter outline. For 2 hours, I will go through my notes. I will work on improving my dialogues, depending on what kind of book you're writing. But like by actually getting very specific about what you're using in your short time slot, it means that you're going to maximize the time when you sit down to actual write. So you don't sit there like, oh my God, this is overwhelming, where to begin? I don't know why, who am I? And then that takes over. So you don't want to do and decide on the same day. You want to decide beforehand. And then when you sit down to do it, you get to do it. And it's so much easier. And of course, if, inspiration takes you, take it away, do something different. But for instance, again, when I knew that I had more focused time at the coffee shop in Hampstead than I did on the bus was for rewrites, for jotting down ideas, for going through things, so you get to decide also where in the day is it most optimal to work on the things you want to work on. And then you see, whoa, I'm getting nowhere with this chapter. I need to take the weekend off. Who has a cabin? Again, ask for help, take off, spend 24, 48 hours with a book, do whatever you can, but you have to start somewhere. So the whole finding the slots is like planting the seeds. So the benefit, of course, with that is that you start to actually do it, and you get a sense of progression, you get a sense of momentum, you start to feel proud of yourself. This can actually happen, or you have horrible moments. This will take too much time, but you show up anyways, and you keep going. Is the only way. Margaret Atwood said it. Do you wonder what type of book gets published? The ones that get written. It's that simple. So this is how it gets written, by making time for your book. And the really magical thing of being so hyper practical and is that inspiration knows where to find you. I mean, you have to show up for it. So if you know that every day at this time, or every Sunday, or every weekend, or every Monday afternoon, I'm doing this, it's almost like there's this like all these thoughts, inspirations, ideas, wisdom, whatever. It's like now you have that super focus, and suddenly these things have a place to land. Because when we're busy scrolling, we're busy on the phone, busy doing the dishes, busy removing stains in the basement, busy refolding the laundry, or reshaping the eyebrows, or taking another bath, or whatever, then it's like there, it can't land. It's like it's all over the place. So it's almost like if you're going on vacation, but you say, I'll just go somewhere. You don't know what to pack. You don't know what the weather is. You don't know what to bring. You don't know what kind of food is. But if you say, I'm going to Paris, now the brain knows what to do. Eurostar, macarons, what kind of way, blah, blah, you start to you can't plan for things when you get specific and you know when you're going. And it's the same with the book. So it's this amazing blend of how the practical supports the magical and the magic supports the practical. And I think you need both. I've never known anyone who doesn't have both. Even Glennon Doyle said that having a structure and a time frame allows her to feel free and unleashed. If she has no structure and no timeline, the idea of pouring her heart out and being honest and speaking from her truth is too overwhelming, because there's no structure in place to protect her in that space. And I find that to be really true. Like right now, in this moment, at this desk where I'm sitting in Nova Scotia, I'm at this writing retreat, it's safe to pour out whatever I want to pour out. So that is another reason why it's really good to have it in your calendar. And also, I think that you start to look in your calendar or figure out your week and you realize you're super busy and maybe you don't have time. This is always the most common reason. But I think it's better to be resourceful than having these chunks of time, because what does it matter if you have these big stretches of time, but you don't know what to fill it with? And it's so much better just to start where you are. Do what you can with the time and the resources and the abilities and whatever is right in front of me. I mean, was it Stephen King who would write in the morning on top of the ironing board because he didn't have a desk?
I believe it was a laundry basket. Yes.
It was a laundry basket. It was the laundry room, nevertheless. And the laundry room was not a separate, gorgeous laundry room like in Downton Abbey. It was a sliding door right next to the kitchen, right? So, and yeah, people have just found the most obscure places and times to write, because you at some point you get so sick of not doing it that you just burst out and you do it. And that's again where the books get written. So I think that it's so much better to be resourceful instead of being held back with, oh God, I don't have the time. I can't go on a writing retreat. I don't know when, blah, blah, blah. But once you start writing it down, even scheduling time to write down your time concerns, so you get those out of the way, so the real writing can happen, it's just oh my God, you're going. I mean, I'm sitting here now working on a book that I've been working on for years. And I'm telling you, every sentence, every 20-minute paragraph, every time I had this, all of this has added up now. And now I'm just in the process of gathering it. And I'm so grateful for previous, former self who took the time, the 5 minutes there, the 10 minutes there, the 2 hours there, saying no to a party there and a movie there, and just sitting on the airport and writing. It's I'm so grateful I did all that, because now that I have the time, I am not starting from scratch. And that is such a joyful, amazing feeling. I'm fighting 20,000 words here, 30,000 words here. I found a draft I don't remember writing, 80,000 words, no recollection. And that's what happens when you do things over time. When you think nothing comes, you think it's not going to come together. And then suddenly you have more time. And it's oh my God, I'm almost walking into a full, already set table. So do not underestimate the chunks of time, and do not underestimate being resourceful over having everything perfect. So without overthinking it. If you want to share based on the information that I now shared with you, what do you want to commit to? And not forever and ever, but just think of like the next 2 or 3 weeks. Like, what could you commit to? What would you want to do? What would you love to do? How much time would you love to carve out for your book? And again, if you want to write it down for yourself, go ahead, like, yes, I'm going to commit to, like, for 2 weeks, I'm blah, blah, blah. Or for the next, every Monday leading up to Christmas, I will, whatever it is. If you want to share it in the comment section, I think that would be so super fun to see.
It's so awesome. Yes, and I will second that. Like once you start on those little half hour here, hour there, 2 hours here, it's like also like the Google search engine in your brain. Ooh, we're getting all sorts of commitments. I love it. The Google search
Yes.
engine in your brain or the cosmos starts like lobbing you ideas and conversations, and you meet people and you're like, ooh, wait, what? And then something comes across your news feed that's like a perfect idea, and all sorts of magic begins to ensue when you start. 2 hours every Monday, 30 to 60 minutes, first hour while still in bed. Ooh, that sounds delicious. Like before you've gotten all jazzed up for the day, all jazz handsy, like I get as soon as I get out of bed. An outline. Ooh, love it. My problem is that I overflow those time slots constantly, Stephanie says, sometimes running into appointments half cocked, not eating or moving around, not seeing the daylight, neglecting friends, dreaming about the thing in my sleep. And this is good. We're getting into questions. So like this is the time too to put your questions in chat about writing or publishing the process. So let's hit that first one. Do you want to take that, Inger? So Stephanie's really feeling like
Oh yeah,
she
yeah. The
everything
all or nothing,
the
the all or
all or
nothing
nothing. Like
approach.
she's either writing and then she's neglecting friends, family, or health, her sleep, everything.
Yeah, I think that is, you can maybe do that for a short period of time, but I wouldn't make it. My plan for this book is that I will not have any personal hygiene or see people, nor would they want to after I haven't showered for 3 months. It's like that cannot be a sustainable writing plan. But I understand the need to wanting to dive in like desperately and not, put on the clothes if you don't have to or whatever. But I think it is important for the book also to give it time to breathe, to give some space between each thing. And sometimes you think, I don't have time, I want it to sit down and go for it. But there's kind of a graspy, weird, needy energy behind that too, instead of trusting that I will take that shower, I will check in with that friend, I will sit down and enjoy my meal outside, and the book is not going to gallop away from me. You don't need to hold on to it like a mad woman. And so I think that trusting that you're allowed to have a life as well as writing, because that was one of the problems I find after written my first book. I had that approach, and it took me 3 years before I wanted to write another one because I didn't want to have that life again. And I don't have that life now. And it's working so much better because I feel rested. I feel rejuvenated. I feel like aligned. And if you do want to have like full days where you just go, 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 absolutely, but you have to have a life as well. There are times, and there can be an ebb and flow. I'm not talking balance, you need to do everything equally, but finding some sense of harmony with it. Like, yes, over the weekend this approach works, but maybe I should give the book a rest on Wednesday or whatever it is, but just try to approach it with more kindness and a little also respect for the book. It's like it doesn't need you to hover over it to get written.
I love that. I love the trust. And I'll just say, when I want to, sorry, I'm just like scrolling up to see the name. That was Stephanie, was it? Yeah,
Yeah,
Stephanie.
Stephanie.
I can so relate to this because I have done this too, where I'm just like obsessed, and it's just like, don't bother me right now. I'm working on my book. Yes, and I'm like not brushing my teeth, and I think one of the things I love what Inger said about trust, and I would say the other thing is to make sure when you're working on the book that you're scheduling walks with friends, you're scheduling
Yes.
coffee dates, you're scheduling even at the very least a phone call a day to a human being, like depending on how isolated you are and where, what your whole situation is, but because when I've read about creatives, there's a wonderful book that I highly recommend. Maybe we'll send it out in the email tomorrow when we send the recording. When you study really balanced, happy creatives, there are a lot of unhappy creatives too, and they're not too balanced. And that kind of goes along with the tortured artist, right? That theme that we all, or that mythology that we've all been sold. But the happiest artists and the most balanced ones seem to work, for a few hours each day, if this is what they do full time anyway. And then they always like go for a walk or a constitutional, or they go to the movies, or they do something. So there's this kind of this back and forth. Like I do the work, but then I also have a life. And so I think, yeah, maybe just being sure to schedule, because this now, you've had this powerful insight about yourself, and you don't want to have this bleeding both ways. So you want to have some, so working maybe with your calendar, or yeah, to make sure you're booking as much time for fun and pleasure and social connection.
And I also just want to add, we don't do our best work when we're just like starved, hungry, body is stiff. Like Margaret Atwood was asked once, what's your best writing tip? And she's like, exercise, because you can't write with a bag back. So, having a healthy body, feeling like, I go on runs every day. That's like, I'm here on a writing retreat. I run 5Ks every day. And there's a part of my inner critic, you should just be writing all the time, like burn the midnight oil, sit up, with coffee and fall asleep on the keyboard and be that like idealistic, romanticized, just like this like deprived version of a husk. And from there, I'm supposed to write my best book. I don't think so.
Yeah, heck no.
No.
Kimberly says, I love how you said that the writing time we set aside can be used to even brainstorm time challenges. I'm going to call my Monday morning hours book time, and that eases the challenge of assuming I'm going to be writing for 2 solid hours. Yes. Book time could be just organizing your journals and rereading them and kind of going, what do we got here? Like throwing down some words that you like. Noel said, I recently had a reduction of hours at work and I was all worried, upset about it. But I was like, hey, you can fill that time with something you love. Stop worrying about what isn't going on at work. Like, yeah, if this is a kind universe, Noel, maybe this little opening, this door is opening, so you have this spaciousness to write this book.
And I just want to quickly add something you said, Sarah, about like you can also schedule time to go through your notes. I think this is important because as you go through your day, you might have an inspirational hit, an idea. Like David Sedaris, he always has a little notebook in his pocket, but you need to schedule time to go through your ideas. There needs to be time for creative development, for brainstorming, for going through the notes. I mean, you can have physical notes. I love recording myself on my iPhone. Have an idea, I talk a lot faster than I type. So there's the chapter. But there's no point in doing all of that and writing everything down and having these things and a bazillion journals that you don't know like where to begin. So to actually schedule weekly or bi-weekly time slots to go through your ideas, I think is going to save everyone a lot of extra work and just frustration.
Absolutely. Any other questions about writing, process, or, I mean, just pop them in if you have other questions. But if maybe we should talk a little bit about, while we're waiting to see if other questions pop up. Oh, here comes one from Jennifer. What about when you have lots of different ideas, different styles and genres, and they're all really different from each other, and committing to one feels overwhelming? Do you want me to? Yeah, do you want to go for that, Inger, or do you want me to? You want me to say something about that?
Well, I can only share what, again, Margaret Atwood, who is my favorite author, this is why I'm bringing up a lot of her examples. She said she always have lots of ideas, but she writes the book that screams the loudest. And sometimes it's the book that she's the most afraid of. Like she was afraid of The Handmaid's Tale. They made no sense to her. And yet she wrote it. So I would say it's like, maybe there's a lot of seems like there's a lot of other ideas because the one you really want to write is the one you're a little bit scared of. So just check in with that a little bit.
That's a really great way to think about it. The other thing, Jennifer, I'm a big fan of is like asking the universe to help you clarify that. So like I think of it as a prayer. If that feels too spiritual or God sort of like, then like I like to make an offering to the universe. This may sound strange, but like put down some flowers or some tobacco on the earth and just say, help me with this. Like I do not know how to proceed. My head is just full of ideas, and can you please, like, through signs and symbols, like point me in the right direction. because often, then the clarity comes. And sometimes in the beginning, it is overwhelming. Like, I just wrote a book of fiction, and I tell you, I thought fiction would be a dream because I was like, there will be no rules. Because after writing memoir, I was so sick of calling people and be like, can we talk for an hour about what you said so we can agree that that's what you said? And then, I just wanted to make sure everything was factually correct. But the truth was, when my imagination could make anything, it got really crazy. It was well, which storyline do you choose? I mean, I had a lot of ideas. But I think sticking with it and asking for that clarity, asking for God, spirit, the universe, whatever trees to tell you to clarify. And remember, you can revisit this book. You're going to have this recording. You could just go back to that journey and go back and converse with the book and say, I'm kind of confused. You're sending me mixed signals. Like, can you please be a little clear with me? Because I'm getting overwhelmed. Yeah. So
Absolutely.
let's take up. But yeah, if anybody has an additional question, please put it down. Let's do one more. Oh, Kelly's saying, talk about signs. I was clearing out some old paperwork and found an autographed photo of Christopher Atkins, who was in Blue Lagoon. And my novel, which don't think it makes sense for me to write, is about a couple on an island. It's like, boom. It's like this stuff. You guys, I was in an airport 2 summers ago and I had given up on my novel. I was like, fuck, I cannot do this. It's too hard. I can't finish. I don't understand. I have no business writing this. I'm down in the underbelly of the Seattle SeaTac, whatever that airport's called. I can't remember. Anyway, I meet this woman and she says one thing to me, and it is so specific and so bizarre and so rare. I immediately know it's like this book going, you better please sit down and finish me. I am begging you. And I was like, you can't make this stuff up. You just can't. And the book will chase you down. It will show you Christopher Atkins. It will, yeah. And then it's just, are we willing? And then it's a willingness to keep going. Kimberly's, I've just watched Blue Lagoon. I haven't watched that in a long time, but I did see a lot of Brooke Shields pictures today showing me anti-aging oil, and she looks like a freaking $1,000,000, even though she probably spent too much time in the sun during that shoot.
Oh my
Okay, we
gosh.
want to take a few minutes to, that's so fabulous. We want to take a few moments to tell you about what we're offering in January. For those of you who have enjoyed this time together and are looking for some support and sort of a circle of powerful writers who are determined to get their book written. And it's going to be a 4-month program, and Inger's going to tell you a little bit about it.
Yes.
A
Yes.
little
It's
more about it.
a little bit more about it. So it kicks off January 13th. It's a 4-month program. But what we really are excited about with this program in particular is that we've divided it into 2 parts. So for the first 3 weeks, it's like an intensive. We'll have weekly Zoom calls. We're going to talk about setting up your writing space, clearing out, limiting beliefs. We are going to share practical and magical tools. Like what you saw today is just tip of the iceberg. And we're also going to do the fun thing of reverse engineering the process. We're going to work from the assumption that the book is finished. But how did you do it? What got in the way? What helped? What could have worked better? What can you put in place to really make it work? So that happens in the first 3 weeks. And then over the next 3.5 months, we are going on a deep dive where the focus will be on the writing. But we're not sending you out into the abyss all by yourself. We'll still have monthly Zoom calls. There will be a Facebook group, and you can check in, you get support, because as you can see, things bubble up. What do I do about time? What do I do about genre? Things will bubble up that you can't predict from the app before you start. And this is why, as fun, as an inspiring, as like an intensive is, we also don't want to leave you hanging. So then we're just going to stretch it out, and you just write. And by the end of those 4 months, you should have a really clear idea of what it takes to finish that book, if you haven't already done so. Because maybe some of you come in with already half-written book, right? So it doesn't matter if your book has started or it's still just in your head, or many books are in your head. We would just really love to invite all of you to come along on this journey. And it's called Let's Fly Together, because this is funner to do together. And I think, Sarah, you should talk about what this is not about, unless you have something to add.
No, that is exactly what I was just going to jump in. This is not a thing where you will be asked to read anybody's work. This is not a writing group. You will not be asked to show your work. You will not be asked to read anybody else's work. This is a container, like a safe and sacred container in which you will be doing your work and sitting with yourself. And I wanted to really make that clear. You may decide to pair up with somebody and share reading and go back and forth. You may decide to do something like that, but that will be up to you. So this is really kind of just, it's just going to be like a powerful nest from which we will all fledge our wings and fly, is our intention with this. And we're really excited because we know, because of all the things we said in those top 10s, like, this is a transformative experience, and this will bring more life to your life. And we guarantee 100% that if you show up in January and you are determined to write this book, you are going to get this book written, and it is going to change your life. You're going to emerge a completely different person on the other end of that. And we have a I think Inger put the link. She's putting that there, and it's going to be...
it's just ingerkenobi.com, and for the next 48 hours, of course, we have $100 discount for you all. So, you can just, so we don't want to bore you with all the details. The link is there. Jump on, see if it resonates, see if something fits, and, we'd love to have you, obviously, because it's going to be an amazing journey. I'm going to keep working on my book in this group, so I'm going to get a lot out of it as well. I'm so looking forward to teaming up with others. It's such a powerful thing.
I'm so pumped. And we're so glad that you guys all decided to come and be with us and just to sit with yourself and to devote this time, because this is it. I mean, you've done it. Tonight you did it. You spent 90 minutes working on your book, essentially. So high five. And thank you so much. And we're going to send out the recording tomorrow, which, feel free to share with people or, re-listen to it, etc. We're just so grateful. So thank you so much for being here. And everybody's saying thank you, loved it.
Thank
Wonderful.
you.
And just sending you lots of love and so many blessings on this beautiful book you've got inside of you.
Do we have time for a tiny poem?
Oh, that's right. We're going to read one fabulous poem. Okay. Yes.
It's a short. This is Mark Nepos' Breaking Surface. Let no one keep you from your journey, no rabbi or priest, no mother who wants you to dig for treasures she misplaced, no father who won't let one life be enough, no lover who measures their worth by what you might give up, no voice that tells you in the night it can't be done. Let nothing dissuade you from seeing what you see or feeling the winds that make you want to dance alone or go where no one has yet to go. You are the only explorer. Your heart, the unreadable compass, your soul, the shore of promise, too great to ignore.
Such a great way to end. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Until soon. Bye, everyone.